welcome back to the Dream Life Loading Podcast, Season 2, Episode 28. I'm your co-host, Skye.
And I'm your co-host, Susan. How are you today, Skye?
I'm hanging in there, Susan. The weather is killing me, like literally killing me, and I hate starting off our episodes so negative, but I just have to be honest, like it is so gray and so cold, and I know we were just saying this that it's the same for you too, like so windy. And I have always said I'm so grateful for our patio here and our sunlight and the warmth from the sun and not having it, especially after having had such wonderful weather for so long. And now, the end of April, we're getting like the very worst of it is just, oh my God, it's just physically draining. Like, I'm having to work like extra hard to maintain like some form of like healthy mental health headspace these past couple weeks. But um, yeah, it's just like I feel like I'm putting in the extra work to like make sure my head is a good place to be in, which we also talk so much on here about like ways to do that. So I'm grateful to have those resources and happy that I can use them, I guess. But yeah, we're taking it day by day, but
All
can't,
you can do.
I really shouldn't complain, but it's how I'm feeling. How are you?
I'm good. I passed my glucose test, which I don't know why. I think we have a lot of pregnant friends right now, and pretty much no one has passed yet. And I was kind of like the last one to go. And so Chris and I were both like fully prepared for me to not pass this, which
Yeah.
with no real reason other than our friends weren't passing. And I had some great numbers. They're like, you have the sugar levels of a non-pregnant person and iron levels, which was a fun fact to learn.
That's great.
So yeah, just very excited about that. And I got a shot. I got my tetanus shot, and it was the first shot that I have gotten sitting upright since I was 3 years old, because that's when I started passing out with shots. And I didn't even pass out. I didn't even get woozy. I was so
Oh.
proud of myself.
I feel like those motherly instincts are already kicking in where you're like, I can't pass out if I'm getting a shot. Cause like I feel like
Yeah.
my parents talk about this and like I hear other parents talk about it too, where it's like when you have a kid, everything changes and you're like, I can't focus on myself anymore. Like my number one priority is my child. And if you used to pass out every time and now even though your child is literally still unborn, but you're like, nope, like I have to be in the headspace of like protect this child, can't pass out. It's a good omen
Yeah.
to begin the rest of this.
That's like, I think that might be one of, along with like my degree, proudest moment, not passing out, sitting straight. That's the whole thing. I always have to lay down. And I didn't have that option. She was like, can you try sitting up and then you can lay down right after? And I was like,
Yeah,
sure. And I didn't even have to lay down.
it's amazing.
So
And I'm so happy you passed your glucose test. And I think you had such a rough start with this pregnancy with your back and the everything going on. So I'm just so happy that
um,
the second half of this has been seemingly a lot easier than the first half, which is
and
very,
it's
very good.
so funny because like I had always been the one that I was like, I want 2 to 3 kids. Like that was always my thing. And now I'm like, I think we're gonna do such a good job on this first one that like I'm set. Like one and done sounds pretty good right now. And Chris looked me in my face yesterday and goes, I know she's not here yet, but I just love being a dad. I could do three. Three sounds great.
You gonna
Yeah.
carry him, Chris?
That's what I said to the man who doesn't deal with them for the first 9 months. It was
Oh
very
my.
cute. I'm glad that he's enjoying, we're going to use
Fatherhood.
father loosely because he had his, fun and now he is just along for the ride. But
Oh, Chris.
yeah, so
Well, I am so
three.
glad to hear
We're
that
going to put
he
three.
Yeah, no, 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 no. I have a feeling that his mind will probably change. And you know what? It could change back, but I feel like
We could
during
interview him a week into this, a week after being home. Hey, how do you
still
feel
want
about
three? Uh-huh. Which means doing this another two times and then doing them all three together.
And I swear, if we have twins the second time around, I'm gonna kill him. Like, that's it.
Oh, because he totally has set you up for it the way he's been
Mhm.
talking. That would be so
Yeah, he's
like
manifesting three, and he knows he's only gonna get 2 tries. So,
Chris,
oh,
funny,
Chris.
funny man. He means well. They all
He
do.
does mean well. Well, speaking of babies and things changing, obviously my routine is about to change a whole lot in ways that I don't even know. I can't even foresee. I'm planning on a lack of sleep,
Mhm,
um, and to just be like smelly and covered in puke all the time.
mhm.
With that, I think it would be a really nice episode today to talk about routines and changing them, establishing them, and all the things. So I think I feel like the last couple episodes that we have talked about routines, it has been kind of like our routines, what we're going through. I feel like this is more of like a formula of
Yes.
how you can make your routine. So we hope you enjoy this episode. We're gearing it towards you, the listener or viewer. And I'm really excited to jump into this one.
Yes, very much like the how-to guide for like, here's the perfect formula for your morning routine. And then if this goes over well, we can do night routines next week or in future weeks. But just really like here, like if you're sick and tired of hearing our routines, this is now going to be a way for you to define your own routine using the advice that we have from our own routine. So very much like Susan said, like geared towards creating this like creating your own schedule.
And I think that this is kind of the perfect season for this too, because I've had such a strict, consistent routine for the last like two 2 years. And now things are really changing up over here too. And just learning to be okay with that is the biggest thing. I think once you shift your mindset to like, I'm going to change my routine or like we're gonna try something new. Because if you're I think I don't want to get too rambly, but long story short, I noticed that if I set my alarm for, let's say, 4 a.m. and then I don't get up, I'm automatically starting my day off in a really bad mood because I feel like I failed myself once already. So I think that just changing your mindset to like, I'm going to try this. If
Mhm.
it doesn't work, then it doesn't work and I don't have to do it again tomorrow. Like,
Yep.
or try to stick it out for a week and see if that works for you. But I think that the biggest thing about changing your routine I found is pairing, like, you have to choose one of these two categories. It has to be something you enjoy or something you're going to be proud of yourself for at the end of the day.
I like
So
that.
that is how I broke down my lists for today is either I enjoy it or I'm going to be proud of myself for doing it.
Yep. That's so interesting because I was like, okay, like if we're starting, like, where do you go if you're like, I have no idea what to do. I'm starting this new season of life, whatever. Like, how do I create a routine? I said, first, make a list of all the things that you need to accomplish in the morning, and then make a list of all the things you want to do. And that was like step one and two for
Essentially the
me,
same
which
thing.
is hilarious that it was basically the same thing. And then my third question to answer for yourself was, what's the earliest you're willing to get up if you're like me and like I like being a morning person, but I definitely also prioritize sleep. So like what is like just be realistic with yourself. Like it's almost like a morning routine life audit. Like be honest with yourself. What's the earliest you're willing to get up? And then, okay, now you have your starting point, and now let's build your routine based on those two lists that we literally both just talked about. So, do we want to go into like some examples or I mean, what do you
Yeah,
think?
let's do some examples and just see where that takes us.
So, I mean, all the things you need to do for me, like that's first thing, I think, make your bed. I think if we talked about, you just said like something you can be proud of. I think making your bed first thing in the morning is a number one way you are checking something off a list. You're doing something good for yourself. Your space looks clean automatically. You're not going to fall back asleep if you do that right away. You kind of turn off the like mental snooze alarm. It's like, all right, fine, I'm up. And then natural light. Open your shades, blinds right away. Like get the light in, trick your brain into being like, okay, we are awake now. Bed is made, sun is shining.
Yes, absolutely. That's yep.
and
I can't even add to that because I'm not going to repeat it. Like, yes.
And then I think next for me, I do my like teeth and skincare first thing. I know a lot of people do their skincare like later in their morning and like brush their teeth after they have coffee and stuff. I have to do it all right away. It's like I think like the water and just like refreshing myself that way like helps me feel more awake, and it's like the ritual aspect of like, okay, I'm beginning my day now. And then honestly, I'll usually brush my teeth again like after I finish coffee and stuff, but I need to do it right away. I know everybody's different, but that's like kind of the kickstart for me to the morning.
Yeah, I can't make my bed first because Chris is always in my bed last. So I get up, shades, go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, let Maggie out.
Hmm.
Those are my four, my core four.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I do hydration right after that. And so this year, what my goal was to do lemon water in the morning, and it's one of the things that I've been the most consistent about all year is I've done like hot lemon water every morning, and I love it because it's good for digestion. It's good for me just like in those ways, but it's also a great way to get like a nice big mug of water in before I like go in with caffeine and all the other things I'm going to have throughout the day. And it pushes back my caffeine, which for your sleep is so good if you don't immediately wake up and chug caffeine. I know some of us don't have the option, but I've really noticed like my caffeine craving has been less and less as the years gone on because I'm not having caffeine until like noon, honestly, which has been really great.
Yeah, that's huge. That was in my enjoy category was coffee. So like if
Yes.
I'm gonna get up earlier, I'm making myself coffee because that's what's gonna get me out of bed. Like sometimes you need an incentive or something that just gets you moving.
Yes. And I think for me, my incentive, which it sounds silly, but it's my New York Times games. It's something I do every single morning. I do it while I drink my lemon water. And it's like, don't bother me. Like, I'm in my little zone right now. I have to do my Wordle, got to do my connections. Like, and it's so fun because I share it with a few different friends and like it's a way to keep in touch. But it's also like incentives. I'm like, oh, I want to go play my games. But it's like basically like I'm doing like the newspaper crossword or something. Like, it's the same exact same idea. It's just on my computer. But that I love that little way of like getting the day started, something fun. It's definitely would be on the want to part of that list, but like you pointed out, it's so important to have some of each.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so like on the flip side of my proud of side is cleaning the kitchen because I obviously try to clean at night, but a lot of times I'll start a load of dishes before we go to bed, which I'm so thankful for. This week we are in our house for one whole year, which is wild. Um,
Congratulations.
Thank
Wow.
you. And
A year
I
flew
just
by.
every day I know, it's crazy. Every day that I get to open my dishwasher, I remember living in our apartment and just like literally praying. I was like, all I want is the dishwasher. I'm so sick of washing dishes by hand. And I love my dishwasher. So I empty her in the morning time and just like I'm making breakfast, I'm packing lunch, like I'm doing all the things and then just having a clean space that I can kind of like run down during my workday and grab something quick. Like it's just so nice.
Absolutely. So I think that's like the big chunk of like the beginning of the day. So if you're listening to this and you're like, "Okay, great, but thought you guys weren't going to go through your own routines." We're going back to it. Because so taking I think I know it sounds kind of ridiculous, but if you are actually trying to create a solid routine, physically making those two lists, I think it's worth it because we've both kind of done this throughout the years or the months or whatever, where it's like, okay, I really want to fit in movement in the morning, or I really want to fit in time to drink my lemon water and then drink my coffee, like whatever it is. So list out everything and then go through and give everything a time. And
Mhm.
if you know, like, okay, my skincare takes 10 minutes, build that in and physically go in. And if you have to take a couple days of like, well, I don't know if it takes me 30 minutes to drink my coffee or only 15, like whatever, go through your day or do this over a week and be like, okay, my coffee took me, average it. You know, like you can go through and do this and actually put the times for everything and then see, okay, I have 63 minutes of things that I want to do in the morning and 15 minutes of things that I'd like to do, whatever it may be, and then see, okay, well, I only have an hour, so what can I cut out and what can I shorten, whatever. Like, don't guess it. Like, you have the ability to go in and time these things, so do it and be able to give yourself as much flexibility as you can.
And also seeing like what do you want to habit stack? Because
Yeah,
that's going to save you time right there. Like if you can enjoy your cup of coffee and do your makeup at the same time, go for it. I personally can't because I feel like using my hands for my makeup. But if you enjoy that, or just finding little ways that you can kind of stack things on top of each
yeah,
other, and try. I think giving it a go of like trying things in a specific order is also super helpful. Like see what order of doing things works best for you, and that does take trial and error.
absolutely. Yeah, I really like that point. This is something I should have mentioned earlier, but I know I've talked about my Ultra Human ring a little bit, but it's actually something that I'm able to use to kind of build my morning routine because it tells me what my optimal bed and wake up time should be based on like getting the not only the longest sleep but like the best sleep. So I'm like I'm going to sleep the longest, the deepest, like whatever. So I use that the night before, and if it says like okay, go to bed at this time and wake up at this time, that kind of allows me like the basis of then building all those blocks on top of it, and then you can kind of go from there. So if you have something like that, I know the Apple Watch, you can use that as a sleep tracker as well. So there's lots of options, but like if you don't want to do it yourself, you can use sleep apps or whatever to kind of help you build the basis of your morning routine foundation.
Absolutely. How often do you charge your ring?
Um, so it says that you should keep it between 30 and 70% for like longest life. You know, like they say you shouldn't charge your iPhone to 100% too, but like I do every night. But for this, I try not to. So I would say I charge it every 3 to 4 days and keep it in like that 30 to 70 window. If I charge it up to 100 every time, I could go a full 7 days. But I'm like, I just put it on the charger for an hour while I'm like sitting in my computer in the shower or whatever, and it stays around like 50, and then just plug it back in because it'll notify you when you hit 30. But yeah, I think it holds a charge pretty well. I know some people complain, but I'm like, what do you expect? Like it's tiny. Like the battery can only be so big, you know?
Right. Well, because like my watch, I can't track my sleep with my watch because it's not going to last the night and the day.
Yep.
So that's why I was curious.
Yeah, no. Every 3 to 4 days, which I think is not bad at all. Like you can
No,
easily.
not at all.
And if I wanted to be like really religious about it, I could say like, "Oh, it's Thursday morning, time to go plug my watch in." You know, like I could do it
Yeah.
that way, but I don't know. Something I wanted to talk about, I don't know, do you follow Danielle Carolyn on TikTok, so any socials? She's one of those OG YouTube vloggers. I've been following her for honestly probably like 10 years. Like I remember her middle school vlogs up until now. She's 25, living in Manhattan. She just started a series, and the first episode I saw of it, I was like, oh my God, this is so Susan coded. It's called AM Uncovered, and she
Oh,
goes and follows people around and uncovers their morning routines. And she's done like nursing students, other influencers, 9 to 5 corporate girls, like all different people in all different careers and situations of
yes.
life, and just like what's your morning, do you exercise first, like this and that. So I bring it up because it's a great way to get inspiration, and also like if you have people you admire, like if you're somebody who is like, oh my God, this CEO is someone who I look up to, look up what their morning routine is. Like start following them on socials. Like what time do they get up? Do they have coffee first thing? Do they have movement first thing in the morning? Like when and what do they eat for breakfast? You know, like all these things, and use people you admire as kind of fuel to build your routine around them.
Absolutely. I love that point.
You should look her up. I think you'd like these AM
Yes,
Uncovered. They're
I
really
I
fun.
wrote it down because now I need to. I think the other thing about morning routines too, because like mm, it's your morning routine is going to look different depending on what you have, like what your morning's leading into. Obviously, if you're working from home, your routine is going to look a lot different naturally than someone who has a commute, you know? So I think just taking into consideration like your morning routine should support and kind of like be the foundation for the rest of your day. So, what is going to benefit you the most and what's going to make you feel good to get you through the day, you know? And I think that another huge point that I'm still learning is just because it doesn't get done in the morning doesn't mean you can't do it. Like, I think the perfect example for this right now for me is exercise. Like, I cannot get up in the morning to save my life, to go work out, but I'm working out in the afternoon and I'm still getting all the benefits from it. So just learning like in the morning time, especially if you're a commuter, like what is the absolute most important and like narrow it down. If you're literally only having your coffee and getting ready for the day, that is a fabulous morning routine for
Yep,
you.
absolutely. I
It
love
doesn't
groups.
have to be filled.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
go ahead.
no, no, no. Finish.
I was gonna say, like, you don't have to fill it with what you see online, like,
Yeah.
well,
Yes, to your point, it doesn't have to be this big glamorous social media routine that you see online. Like these AM Uncovered, some of them, it's like, okay, well, like you know, what you're seeing online is never the full picture. Like, even when I watch these AM Uncovereds, I'm like, well, I didn't see you brush your teeth and now you have a full face of makeup and your hair's done. So, like, how do we fit that into your morning routine? You know, like,
Right.
she's getting, obviously, like, it's all for the glamour and the aesthetic. So, I think that's a really good point that, like, it has to work for you. And that's something I wanted to bring up from exactly what you were saying is like, you shouldn't wake up and be like, oh my God, I have to get all these things done because it's what I should be doing and it's best for me. And then you're starting your day rushed and you're probably late and you're frantic and overwhelmed. And like, that is not the point at all. Like, make it work for you. I think like learning to live with yourself is like one of the biggest keys to success. And if that means like you are choosing to wake up an hour early because you need that slow morning in order to like prepare yourself for the day ahead, go for it. But if it means for you, like, no, I can't go to bed early, so I have to sleep in until I absolutely have to wake up. Do that, have your coffee on the go, and get out of the house. Like, if it's working for you, that's all that matters. I don't care if it looks aesthetic or like not at all.
And I remember when I was teaching, I would have like celebratory days. So I would strategically put in like on, let's say, a Wednesday, it's midweek slump. I did not want to drive the half hour to my teaching job that I was not enjoying. I was stopping for a coffee. Like, celebrate and give yourself the little wins throughout the week. Like, your schedule can be a little different, but if coffee is definitely going to be on your schedule all week, make one day a fun day or make it Friday because then it's like extra fun. But like, figure out different ways to, like, you can make each day in itself a great day based on your routine and the little things you do to support yourself.
Yeah, and even if you're just like switching out a task and like substituting it in for something that's the same but different, I think that's a really nice way to stay consistent with a routine while still keeping it interesting. I know that's something that people talk about a lot with routines. It's like, well, I did this for 6 months or 3 months and then I got so sick of it and I just fell off and completely stopped doing it. It's like, to avoid that, do exactly what you're saying. Like, get your coffee out one time this week, and then next week, if you're exhausted, maybe you get it out 3 times. Like, you know, like, and if you're really creating the foundation of like, okay, I know exactly how much time each of these tasks is going to take, then you know, like, okay, well, if I want to stop for coffee, maybe I should skip my 10 minutes of reading this morning so that I can prioritize getting my coffee on the way or whatever. Like, you can kind of pick and choose day to day based on like your schedule, your mood. Like, literally, you don't really need to explain it. Like, if you feel like doing your routine a little bit differently, if that's what's going to benefit you that day, I think you've been the perfect example of that the past couple months. Is just like, no guilt. If it works for you, that's the way it's got to be.
And I think another part of that is like being okay with swapping some of your morning routine habits with your night routine habits.
Yeah.
Like, if you know you want to go out and get a coffee in the morning, you can make your lunch the day before or the night before. So then you're not doing it the morning of. Like, save yourself time by making those little switches.
Yes, I think I love what you just said. This was something I don't do anymore because obviously I work from home now. But when I used to be in school or working like in office, in hotel, whatever it was at the time, picking out your outfit the night before saved me not even like physical time, but like mental energy of not having to think about it. I feel like I slept better knowing that I would wake up and like already know what I had planned for the next day. And I think I was like picking out better outfits. I was having more fun with it because I was taking the time the night before when I actually had time versus in the morning if you're exhausted and you're like, oh, whatever, like I don't have time to think about it. Like, you can kind of use that phrase like, oh, I don't have time. It's like, okay, well, when do you? That you can do these things. And if it's like, okay, I have the time the night before to plan out what my morning's going to look like, do that so that then your morning is just, you've used this phrase, like your routine's on autopilot because you've planned it out, you
Mhm.
know exactly what's going to happen at every single moment.
Absolutely.
I had plan out the rest of your day. I know we just kind of said like you're planning out your morning, but this is something that's important for me where if I'm in the middle of my like morning routine and I'm like, okay, I know I have the time to be doing this, but then my brain's starting to be like logging on for the day and it's like, oh, well, I know I have to do this thing for work and I have to do this and then I just start doing them and it's like, oh, I'm in the middle of this chapter, my breakfast half eaten, like I'm all over the place. And I'm like, you have to ground yourself. Like, pick, Skylar, pick one activity at a time. And so that's when I try and stop myself and say, okay, we're going to make a list. Here is all the work tasks for the day. Here's the DLL tasks. Here's the personal tasks. They're written down. I won't forget them. Now go back and finish your breakfast and your New York Times crossword, like all these things that I want to do before I begin my day. And that kind of allows me to like chill and be present on the one task because I know that I won't forget what's coming because I wrote it down. Kind of the same as like your morning routine, just planning ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I for like my work, I we have a chat system and I will not turn my chat system on for usually the first 30 to 45 minutes of my day because well, as much as I'd like to talk to my friends, I need to focus.
Yeah.
And that's the time that I spend writing my work priorities out and then a lot of times just personal priorities just kind of flood through, you know. So I separate them and decide what I'm doing first, what needs to be done, what's high priority, what's not, and then I set my goals for the day. And no one is going to be able to access me unless it's email until I've done that. And then I'm on to chat and then, you know, everyone has access to whatever they need from me. But
It's a
that
great
has been a
memory.
huge game changer for me.
Mhm. We didn't even talk about like phone usage in the morning, and I feel like that's been one of the biggest changes I've made this year is like I go on my phone because like first thing I go on my phone obviously to turn off my alarm, and then I think with the time difference, I check my texts because like if there was something in like the 6 hours that you guys were still awake and I was sleeping, like I want to know what's going on there. But I that's kind of all. I'm like, okay, I'll check my text, make sure like everything's good in the world, and that's it for my phone. Not going on social media first thing in the morning has probably been the most beneficial change I've made this year. Like it is insane for like mental clarity. I think I would go on my phone and like open Instagram first thing and just like I could like feel my heart rate pick up. It's like cuz you're like it's like that quick hit of like dopamine. Like you're waking up and it's like, okay, like I want to be online and I want to see all of this. And you don't need it. Like you do not need it first thing. It's such a terrible way to start your day. And by pushing it off later and later, I crave it less. And I think it's the same with caffeine. It's totally, we're hitting the same sort of thing. So if you do all these better things for you first thing and push off the stuff that you're just doing to kind of supplement what you should be doing, it's been such a game changer.
And I promise you, no one has posted anything that important in the 6 to 8 hours you were asleep.
No.
Because I'm guessing, like most, I know I check my phone before I go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing, like, at some point at night before you go to bed, you've already scrolled through, did all your scrolling. No one's posted anything at 6 a.m.
And it also
usually.
doesn't matter if they are,
Yeah,
because
it
it's
does.
not going to benefit you. Like if I'm in like my nice zone, I'm like getting my day started in the way that works for me. And if you go online and like let's say someone did post something or you saw something that was like, "Oh man," and now you're spiraling in this like well, if you hadn't have gone online, you wouldn't have seen it. Like why did you do that? Like it was not worth the time. This doesn't change anything about your day other than now you're like feeling all frazzled. Like you couldn't have done anything about it. If you didn't know about it, would have been so much better. So just don't even do it to yourself and you save so much time. Like cuz all I would sit in bed and just scroll and I'm like, "Oh, 15 minutes have gone by." If you don't allow yourself to open your phone for like I if you don't allow yourself to open socials, I'm up so much faster because there's nothing to do sitting around in bed. It's like, okay, I guess we start my day because I can't, nothing to distract me here. I'll go find something else to distract me.
Um, that is all I have. Do you have anything else on your list?
That is all I have as well. Yeah, no phone in the morning, specifically socials, was the last thing on my list. And we just hit that as well.
Favorites?
Yes. You
You want to
begin?
start? Okay. My quote for the week is a girl who is going to do big things cannot let small things get to her.
I like that.
The
I feel
graphic
like,
was much cuter, but
say that again?
the graphic on Pinterest that it went with was much cuter now that I just said it out loud. But it still it caught me. It made me stop
Yeah.
and read it. So,
No, I feel like there's a bigger message there too. Like I can't think of like there's one of those iconic quotes. I
oh my
can't think of
gosh,
it.
if one small part of your routine gets messed up, you're not going to let it ruin your day
I was
because
like,
you're
I
doing
know
big
I've heard
things.
this before, and it's because you said it
We
15
just
minutes
talk
ago.
about it.
Sometimes you gotta like step away and be like, what's the big picture here? Like, what am I actually? Yeah, that is exactly
Also,
me.
pregnancy brain. Literally last night, Chris and I were watching a TV show, and I was like, "Isn't that the guy that got beat up last week?" And he was like, "Yeah, they're twins." And I was like,
Oh,
"But but that looks like the guy that he beat up. And Chris goes, they're twins.
Oh,
And I
Susan.
was like, so that's him. And he was like, Susan, they're twins. And he literally said it 4 or 5 times. And then it all clicked. And I was like, oh, it's his brother. They're twins. And he was like, we were both laughing so hard. We had tears coming down our faces. He was like, I love you, but I can't believe that that just took 4 tries to get into your brain. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, I was repeating it. Like, I was like, oh, they're twins, but it wasn't right. It wasn't sinking in. So,
It doesn't
French
register
fries
sometimes, like if you're
is
so stuck on like we can look at this big picture too. Like if you're so stuck on the way something should be or the way you think it is, you can't even think about other options. Even if you're literally saying the answer out loud, if you're not allowing yourself to think about it, it's never going to register.
like he was just saying twins, and that word meant nothing to me. I was like, okay, like so he has a brother. Oh no, that is the brother.
Oh. But I
What is
really
your
like that quote. I feel like that's like a
yes,
really actually really sums up the episode really well, which is ironic that you didn't even plan it that way, but that happens more often here than not.
very
Um,
aligned.
so I kind of had two because originally I didn't have a quote and I was gonna share these like brain chemical hacks that I was learning about. And then I thought of a quote and it was celebrating your own wins. I think we try so hard to and like we as in like women as in a society as in like good natured people as in DLL as in the two of us so many different situations of we work so hard to prioritize other people and focus on other people and lift them up and celebrate their wins and it's like you need to celebrate your own too like there is a balance where you do need to be a little bit selfish sometimes and give yourself a pat on the back be like you know what like that validation from other people can be great if other people are telling you like you did a great job on this or whatever like that's amazing and obviously that's important but you need to do it for yourself too and I feel like a lot of the times that self-validation is even more important than the validation you get from others like remind yourself like good job you know so celebrate your wins so that was my
Absolutely.
like quote but then I was doing some research about like different like brain chemicals and I can share this list on our Instagram actually I will do that but I was learning about like different foods that like trigger like your dopamine responses or like serotonin and like dopamine, serotonin, endorphin, and oxytocin are like the four different brain chemicals, and there's things you can do to kind of like trigger each of them in a good trigger is probably not the right word, but like if you're lacking, what'd you say?
Activate.
Yeah, yeah. So like if you're lacking dopamine, like complete a task, do self-care activities. If you need serotonin, like exposure to sunlight, exercise, things like that. So I was finding that very interesting. So I'll share the full list on our Insta. But yeah, that was my like second quote ish of the week.
That my favorite of the week is my craving for this week. I have been craving cinnamon rolls for the last probably three
Mm,
weeks. But because I had my glucose test last week, all week I was pushing it off. So the second I passed that thing, I was out of the hospital. I drove straight past my house and I went and I got cinnamon rolls, like the Pillsbury ones, and
yum.
I made them myself. Oh, so delicious. And they have just hit the spot. So cinnamon rolls
Those
and
are so
tortilla,
good.
not combined because that's just weird. But like house-made tortilla chips from our local grocery store. Mm, delish.
Um, it's funny, my favorite of the week is also a food item. I don't know
Of
how we
course
do
it
this.
is.
Yep. But Nick and I have both been obsessed with this juice. It's called ACE juice. I don't know if it's pronounced ACE, Ache, ACE. I don't know what the deal is, but it's a juice that we've been getting for a while and it looks just like orange juice. It comes in a carton here. And we first started buying it, like we weren't really big OJ drinkers, but if we were having mimosas or something, we'd grab it because it looked a little bit more fun than normal orange juice and I was drinking it last week and I was like just straight and like and I was like wow this is
Mhm.
just such a good juice like there's something so special so it's called ACE juice because it has vitamin A vitamin C and vitamin E in it and
Oh,
all it is oranges carrots and lemon and it is so freaking good and we were researching it because we were like what is this special juice it's apparently like an Italian delicacy like people are obsessed with it if you like live here and then go back home, it's like, oh my god, I miss my ace juice. Like I love that stuff in Italy, and I'm like, how did we live here and not for 2 years and not know that this was like a thing? But we figured out the ace juice sooner rather than later. So it's just so refreshing. A little bit of carrot gives like a sweetness. Oh, it's so good.
Sounds delicious. I like want to try to make some at home.
You could. I was thinking about doing it. Like, I don't know if you have a juicer, but even like I just have a blender here, blend
Yeah,
up all three of those things and then just strain out the pulp and it would
nice.
be delish.
Absolutely. I love that. All right, guys, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, leave a review wherever you are listening. We appreciate you guys being here, and we'll be back next week.
Thank you for listening.